majorly last time we saw two characteristics, input characteristics and output characteristics. So if you just recall quickly, this was my input characteristics, and let's say I'm drawing input and output characteristics here. So my input characteristics was like this, and this was my threshold voltage, and my output characteristics was somewhat like this. Okay. So this was your cutoff, this was your linear or saturation. This is linear and this was saturation, and on both the y-axis we had ID, and we saw that in saturation ID is a function of only VGS, and here we have VDS. Okay, so just remember, in linear ID is a function of both VGS and VDS, and in saturation ID is a function of only VGS, and that is very much visible from the linear and saturation current equations. So if you want, I'll just write them. In the saturation region, we had ID is equal to Kn by 2, VGS minus VTO the whole square, and here in linear the equation was somewhat like this: ID is equal to Kn by 2, VGS minus VTO, VDS minus VDS square. So now you can see on both y-axis we had ID. Okay. Now to understand the AC model of the MOSFET, what I am doing is, I am doing like this. See here. The x-axis I will keep it as VGS, and the y-axis I will keep it as VDS. Now this point is nothing but VDS sat, and the value of this point was VGS minus VT, which defines the boundary between linear and saturation. Now here, how to understand these characteristics? So you should see on the deciding point on VGS axis is VTO. So I'll just mark that. This is the deciding point on, and the deciding point on VDS axis is VGS minus VTO. So now we can divide this graph into 4 parts, because we have 2 points on x and y axis respectively. So you can see here that if VGS is less than VTO, then the MOSFET is in cutoff. If VGS is less than VTO means VGS is in this region, then the MOSFET is in cutoff. So whether VDS is greater than this, less than this, does not matter. This is VTO. Whether it is greater than this, less than this, does not matter. So this point, so when VGS is less than VTO, whatever may be the value of VDS, the MOSFET will be in cutoff. Now, when VGS is greater than VTO, we have 2 cases, that is case 2 and case 3, according to our discussion. So if VGS is in this, then if VDS is in this region, then it is linear, and here it is saturation. So here I will write this is going to be linear region, and here this is going to be saturation. Now in linear, what can you observe? You can observe that current is varying linearly with voltage. So in this region, the MOSFET operates as a resistance, and in saturation you can see that the current is constant. So here the MOSFET will behave like a constant current source. But I told you that not, this is all ideal. But what if there is channel length modulation? That means, what if in this saturation equation, if we have 1 plus lambda VDS term also, then we will have some slope in the characteristics, and because of this, what will happen here is, what we are going to get is, so this ideal current source will become like a practical current source, and this is called as R0. Okay, so this is ideal and this is practical. So this much is enough to model the device. That means, now if you look at the three terminals, we have gate, we have drain, and we have source. So gate and drain, so there is no connection between gate and drain, and there is no connection between gate and source. So gate drain is open circuit, gate source is open circuit. Why? Because there is a oxide layer between gate and drain and source. But between drain and source, VDS, we can show a current source, because if the MOSFET is in the saturation region of operation, then there is going to be a current source. So this is basically the model of the transistor. So please draw this. Now, what is the values of the currents? So here, this voltage drop is plus minus VGS, and the value of this current source will be GM times of VGS. GM times of VGS. Please write like this. So this is like the ideal MOS or MOSFET model. But like I always say, nothing in this world is ideal. So we want to see a practical case. So what we can do is, we can pick this up, and what if the channel length modulation is severe? Then what we will get is something like this. So here we will have R0. Please write like this. Once done, just write done in the chat box. Once done, just write done in the chat box. Okay, Tanvi. So here we can write model or AC model of MOSFET when lambda is not equal to 0. The value of this R naught is lambda times of ID. The value of this R naught is like 1 upon lambda times of ID. And in this case, we can say lambda is equal to 0. So lambda not equal to 0 means CLM is present, and here we say no CLM, channel length modulation. So now let's see the AC equivalent of the MOSFET amplifiers. So let us draw together. Now when in the MOS circuits, instead of VCC we just write VDD. This is your input capacitance. This is R1, R2, RD, RS, and just for our sake I am just highlighting the terminal. This is gate, drain, source. Yeah. So this is enough. And the drain current always flows through ID and RS. So like I always said, that the method to convert this into an AC equivalent circuit is always going to be the same. Of course, don't forget the ground like me. So now when we are making the AC equivalent of this circuit, the first thing that we do is, just remember, we used to make all DC sources ground. So here we will connect this to ground. Here also we Soham, am I audible and is my screen visible?
Yes.
Okay, because for some time my connection fluctuated. Okay, ठीक है. So now this circuit, what will happen here is that we will be having a ground here too. So now we will take this circuit and make all capacitances zero or shorted. So this thing now becomes, let's say, somewhat like this. In this case, what we will do is we will short circuit the capacitances. So this CS, this C0, everything will get shorted. So you can write here, just for reference, Ci shorted. Here you have C0 shorted, and here you have CS short. Yes. So again, by taking this circuit, now let's observe that R1 and R2 are going to be in parallel. So you don't have to calculate all the steps, but just observe. Now this R1 and R2 are in parallel. So what I can do is, instead of all this, I will simply write here R1 parallel to R2, and here this RS is short circuited by CS. So what will happen? So this entire thing, RS, no need to show RS at all because it is shorted with the help of a capacitor. So this is going to be connected to ground straight away, and here this RD is connected between drain and ground. So again, what we are going to get here is, here we have V0 and RD is connected between drain and ground. Like this. So now the only step that remains is convert, substitute the model of this symbol in the circuit. So now what you will get here is, first you will get, you can start with V in, then you can see what R1 parallel with R2, Then we have the MOSFET symbol. So let me insert that. So this is the model of the MOSFET. Source is connected to ground, and then we have RD connected between drain and source. And this is my VL. So this is gate, drain, this point is source, and the voltage here is VGS. So we will always show that voltage, which is VGS, and this is the MOSFET model. And here the value of ID is equal to GM times of VGS. So in total, this is going to be our AC equivalent circuit. So draw this final circuit, and then we will see from in AC equivalent what are we planning to calculate. Simple. Voltage gain, Ri and R0. For MOSFETs we don't calculate AI because AI is nothing but I0 upon II. But the input current here, the gate current, Ig is always equal to 0 because there is an open circuit between gate and source and gate and drain. So basically the current gain is infinite. So infinite means it cannot be defined properly. That is why we don't even calculate current gain for this device. Copy this. Once done, write done in the chat box. Yes. So first thing now we will calculate is, I'll write here, calculation of Ri. So these calculations are simple because there is an open circuit in the model. So basically it's very easy to calculate the current values and the voltage values. So what is Ri? Ri is the resistance seen from this side. So Ri is the resistance seen by this source. So you can see Ri is equal to simply R1 parallel to R2. Very easy. Next, if you see calculation of R0, so it is the resistance as seen from the output side. So from here, so this is going to be R0. But when you are calculating R0, what is our general condition? When you calculate R0, we have seen this in lab also, we make V in equal to 0. If V in equal to 0, then you can also observe VGS becomes 0. V in is connected between gate and ground. VGS is also between gate and ground. So VGS becomes 0. And if VGS becomes 0, ID also becomes 0. ID also becomes 0. So this entire circuit, now becomes somewhat like this. See here. So this circuit becomes like this. And what changes in this? So V in is 0. That means what? I show this as a short circuit. So because of that, VGS becomes 0. And this ID depends on VGS. So the value of the current source becomes 0. Value of voltage source 0 means short circuit. Value of current source 0 means open circuit. So now you can very well see R0 is RD parallel with the infinite resistance. So RD parallel with infinity is RD itself. So we can write here R0 is equal to RD. R0 is equal to RD. And now comes the calculation of voltage gain. So I'll just write it here. So AV is simple. By definition, V naught upon V in, output voltage upon input voltage. Now what is output voltage? If you look at here carefully, output voltage will be the voltage across RD and current is flowing like this. So the current is like coming out of ground. So the voltage drop will be, so V naught will be minus GM into VGS into RD, and V in is equal to VGS. So what will we get here? So AV is going to be equal to simply minus GM VGS RD on VGS. So this cancels out, and what you get here is AV is equal to minus GM times of RD. Now how to calculate all this, I'll tell you. These are the formulas. So actually what happens here is that the model that we have seen, so what model we inserted is the ideal model. But what if it's a practical case? What if lambda not equal to 0? Then in that case, what happens is, here in this model, we get one more term here, that is R0, and here This was same GMVGS. And now if you see, you are adding a term on the output side. So the input resistance remains the same. Only what happens here is the output resistance is going to become, instead of R0 is equal to RD, it will be RD parallel to small r. Okay. And as far as voltage gain is concerned, this will be RD parallel with R0. This will also become RD parallel with R0. And here the equation for the current gain, voltage gain, will be GM RD parallel with. So first you will copy this, that is the normal current equations and voltage gain. Once you are done with this, you write done in the chat box, then you will copy the next one. Have you copied this? Okay, are you done copying this? If yes, just tell me yes, we will go to the next one. So this is the next. All you need to do is the same diagram but with the R0. With the R0. With the R0 means lambda now not equal to C. In most of the cases, we can assume lambda to be equal to 0. So when you are calculating any problem, you can assume that straight away lambda is equal to 0, no problem at all. So only in that case, every RD gets replaced by RD parallel R0. Now let's say that if R0 is not there, like lambda is equal to 0, there is no R0 and there is RL. So this will become RD parallel with RL. This thing will become RD parallel with RL. So example, I'll just show you again. So in this circuit, now we have C0, and if we have a RL here, then there will be a RL here also. There will be a RL in this place also. And when you come to this circuit, this will be actually RD parallel with RL. So we have a RD, and here we have a RL. So this thing actually becomes RD parallel RL. And now the gain equation will change. So this will become R0 parallel to RD parallel to RL. Okay, and this will be also parallel to RL. Okay, Soham, you can note down the second circuit now. So no need to again redraw everything because we are only changing the model. So this is AC equivalent with lambda not equal to 0. Okay, and the first thing that we saw here is that in this case lambda is equal to C. So this is our second circuit now. What is there in this box you will draw, and then you will simply write Ri, R0 and AV. Ri, R0 and AV. So that's what you will write. So the diagram will change here also.
Sir, could you show the diagram where lambda is not equal to 0?
The diagram for
Where the lambda is not equal to 0.
this one.
Yes. Thank you, sir.
Yes. Please copy the equations for Ri, Ro and voltage gain. Once done, just write done in the chat box, and then we will solve one 10 marks problem which might come in the exam. So this diagram I have drawn just for your understanding. Okay? You don't have to draw it. You can just note down the equations. That's it. And this is the circuit when you include RL also. So let's do a problem. I think that will give more insight on all this. So in this they have asked you to calculate the RI, RO and voltage gain. So this R1 is 100 kilo ohms, this is 20 kilo ohms, this is 5 kilo ohms, RS is 1 kilo ohm, 10 microfarad, this is 2 microfarads, CI is, let's say, 1 microfarad. And VDD we can take it as 5 volts, and RL is 10 kilo ohms. And what you will always be requiring is VTN, that is the threshold voltage of the MOSFET, is 0.4, and Kn is equal to 1 milliampere per volt square. So now you have to understand one thing, that the equation for ID which I showed you was like this: mu n cox W by L, this entire thing upon 2, VGS minus VTN or VTO the whole square. So when they specify a value like this in the problem, okay, so when they specify these two values, the value of Kn means all this is Kn. So generally we write it as Kn by 2, but this is Kn. So this, what is given to us is this. Okay. So don't write it here Kn, right? Don't write 1 milliampere per volt square by 2. This entire thing that is given to us is 1 milliampere per volt square. So let us, so what we have to calculate is AV, RI and RO. This is what we have to calculate. So let us start with the solution of this problem. So I am writing here solution. First is, let's calculate what is the voltage at point VG, this point. So that is simple because that's a potential divider arrangement. So we can write R2 upon R1 plus R2 into VDD. So that is 20k upon 20k plus 100k into 5. So can somebody tell me what is the value of VG quickly? Come on, tell me the value quickly. Calculate karo. This is 1 by 120. Soham, that value is correct. Can somebody else also confirm this value, please? Value seems to be correct, but I want one or two more confirmations. And mind it, this is the same problem that we will be solving in our lab. Okay, so our half the work for the lab is being done today only. Okay, that is correct. 0.8333 volts. Now, what is the value of Vs? Vs is the voltage flowing through the across the Rs resistance. So that is Id times of Rs. Id Rs. Rs is 1000. So I'll write here Id into 1000. So Vgs is going to be Vg minus Vs. That is going to be 0.833 minus Id into 1000. This is the value of VGS. So actually, to calculate AC values, we have to first perform DC analysis. Okay, that is something new here. That is why I am just solving this for you. Okay, now we know that ID is equal to Kn into VGS minus VTN the whole square. So that is going to be 1 into 10 raised to minus 3 into VGS minus 0.4 the whole square. So what you can do is you can put this ID equation, you can put this equation in the above equation. So if you call it like equation 2 and if you call this 1, then we can put 2 in 1. So what we are going to get is putting, I'll write here, putting 2 in 1. What we will get here is VGS is equal to 0.833 minus ID is 10 raised to minus 3 into VGS minus 0.4 the whole square into 1000. Now can you, this is a quadratic in what? VGS, the only unknown variable in this equation is VGS. So you can see that very clearly. This is VGS and here we have VGS. Now you will give me two values. Oh Pratik, very good. You have immediately calculated. Very nice. And your values are absolutely correct. So Pratik has already calculated. So from this equation, we should get two values of VGS. That is going to be 0.7266, sorry, volts, and the other value is minus of something. So obviously this negative value is discarded, and the value of VGS comes out to be 0.7264 volts. Sorry. So this is going to be our value of VGS. Correct. Now we are free to calculate the value of ID. So ID is now going to be, from equation number 2, we can write 10 raised to minus 3 into 0.7264 minus 0.4 the whole square. What is the value of ID? What is the value of ID? 0.106, correct? So I'll write here 106.5 microamperes. Correct. That value is correct. Yes, Soham, your value is correct too. Now, since we have got ID, now we can also calculate GM. GM is 2Kn into VGS minus VTN. So that is, if I differentiate this equation with respect to VGS, this 2 will come outside and what will remain is this bracket. So this is 2 into 1 into 10 raised to minus 3, 0.7264 minus 0.4. What is the value of GM? Come on, calculate quickly. Yes, what is the value? Okay, 653.2, which is correct. Now what is the unit? So see, that's where Soham, you have missed something. So that is 653 is correct. Microamperes is also correct, but it is actually microamperes per volts, or the symbol for is like this, and this is also called as mhos. Just ohms के symbol को उल्टा दिखाओ, that is called as mhos. Now we are free to calculate the value of gain, that is AV is equal to GM RD parallel with RL parallel with R0. Now out of this GM we have calculated, we have the value. What about R0? R0 is 1 upon lambda times of ID, but lambda value is not given, so we will assume it to be 0, and R0 is, that means R0 tends to infinity in a parallel combination, when R naught tends to infinity, R naught represents open circuit, and that is why we can write this as GM RD parallel with RA, and this GM is going to be 653 into 10 raised to minus 6 into RD is, what is the value of RD? The value of RD is 5 and RL is 10. So that will be 5K parallel to 10K. So this is nothing but, so what is the value of gain? Can somebody tell me quickly? What is the value of gain? Come on, tell me quickly. $2.176, correct. 2.1767. What is the unit of gain? It will be unitless. Now Ri will be R1 parallel to R2. That will be simply 10K parallel, 20K parallel with 100K. Whatever is this value you will write, and R naught is going to be simply 5K parallel to 10K, which you must have just now calculated. Tell me what is the value of Ri and R0. So why we had to calculate all this quadratic and everything? Because we had to calculate the value of GM and ID. Tell me what is the value of Ri and R0. Come on, quickly. Ri is, wow. So you want me to calculate the number of 6. Okay. It is 16.66 kilo ohms, correct. And what about R0? 3.33 kilo ohms, correct. Okay, so everything is now solved. Now in the problem, in the same problem, in the lab we will be doing this. If lambda, now if lambda is given to us, lambda is not given to us, We assumed it to be 0. Now if lambda is given to us, if lambda is 0 point something, 0.05, let's say, then what will happen? So here till this point you can use the same equation, okay, but here now you can calculate the value of R naught. Okay, here you can calculate the value of R naught. So now R naught will exist, and that will affect the game. Okay, so you can try that. Come on, try it. By the way, what is the value of VDS? VDS is equal to VDD minus ID into RD plus RS. So that is 5 minus ID is given to us. How much is that? Is 106.5 and RD plus RS, whatever it is, 5K plus 1K. So what is the value of VDS? What is the value of VDS? Yes, what is the value of VDS? Can somebody tell me? So high? No, not possible. Yes, that is correct. 4.361. Okay. Now we will be doing something called as the frequency response of the MOSFETs. Okay. Frequency response means how the amplifier behaves for a certain frequency. So many times the low frequency response gets affected at very low frequencies and very high frequencies. For example, our ears are capturing the sound signal in the environment, but they cannot sense extremely low frequency sounds. Okay, and we cannot also hear extremely high frequency sounds. We can hear only in a certain range, and that range is called as the audible range of our ears. Now whether similar thing exists for the amplifier or not, that we need to find out. That means whether the amplifier will amplify each and every frequency with the same amplitude or not. That is the question. So generally what happens is, like, if you are listening to a song, okay, so nobody will break up a beautiful, such a beautiful thing like a song, but I'll do that. Okay, so we'll see this frequency response. Now what happens is that, I'll just say, take an example of a song. So when you make a song, let's say it may have a male's voice, it may have a female's voice. Voice means what? A frequency. Female's voice means maybe a different frequency. It may have instruments. Okay, and in instruments we may have, like, strings or drums or maybe a flute kind of. So strings means there is a string and you are going to just stretch it and leave it. Drums means you are going to do some banging action, and flute means you will pass some air through that instrument. Okay, so they generate different frequencies. What I mean to say is, so let's say I have F1, F2, F3, F4 and F5. Okay, now let's see that if you are hearing this song, if you are playing this directly from your phone and your speakers are, your headphones are connected to the phone by a wire, you will get the best quality of sound. Okay, but if you are connecting this thing wirelessly, then there can be some losses. What it means is that some of the frequencies are not able to make it to the wireless device. Another example could be, like, many times when we talk on phone with our friends, sometimes we say hello and we start talking, and the person in the front will tell us that, who's this? And then you tell him, Are, I am your friend, like that. So why this thing happens? Because certain frequencies in your sound, certain frequencies in your voice are not amplified by that person's system who is receiving the signal. And that is where we need to do a study of the frequency response of the amplifier. We need to do a study of what? The frequency response of the amplifier. So the frequency response is the study where we see how the amplifier is treating every frequency present in the sound signal. How the amplifier is treating every frequency which is present in the incoming signal. What we want is that the amplifier should amplify each and every frequency with the same amount of gain. That means the multiplication factor when we are receiving the signal should be the same for all the frequencies. This is also true in volume control. Let us say that sometimes you want to increase the volume. So all the frequencies, all the sounds in that sound should get amplified by the same amount. We don't want something like this. When I increase the volume, only female's voice get amplified and male's voice does not get amplified. The song will look or seem very weird to our ears. So all this can be controlled by studying the frequency response of the amplifier. So if you want to like be a engineer at Bose or something, the companies which manufacture very high quality speakers and sound systems, you need to be like extremely good at the frequency response of the amplifiers. So what exactly is this frequency response? So let me just draw a graph here. Okay, so you can draw this with me or whatever. Okay. So it is like this. So the frequency response of the amplifier is generally like this. So this extending to 0 because so you can just leave it this way. Okay. Now what you can observe is this is like the max gain. So what is there on this? Voltage gain, and what is there on this axis is frequency. Now this is the, I will say, AV mid gain. AV mid, the gain that we just now calculated using the formula for gain, that is the mid gain. Now if I draw a line 3 dBs below this, if I draw a line 3 dBs, so for that this gain has to be in dBs. If I draw this line 3 dB, it will intersect this black line at 2 spots, and if I pull this thing down on X and Y axis, this gives me FL, lower cutoff frequency, and higher cutoff frequency, and the frequency difference between them is called as bandwidth. So this thing is called as bandwidth, and bandwidth is FH minus FL. Now you can see that the graph got divided into 3 regions when we did this. Okay, so this much is like so this distance is 3 dB. Okay, now it got split into 3 regions, so you can see here very well. This is the first region. This is the second region, and then we have the third region. So here this region is called as the mid frequency range, or I will call this as mid band frequency. Mid band frequency. This is called as the high frequency response or high frequency band, and this is our low frequency band. Okay, now why this rise and why this fall are there at high frequency and low frequency? Why? What is the reason? So let's see that. So why this thing is there, then why do we have a constant gain here, and then why do we have like a constant a falling gain here? Okay. Now these responses are mainly, so this fall in gain, this fall in gain at high frequency is mainly due to capacitances CGS and CDS, which are internal to the MOSFET. Which are internal to the MOSFET. Now here in the mid frequency range, all the capacitances can be neglected. All capacitances can be neglected. That is, AV is minus GM times of RD. So in this, so that this is what we do in our AC analysis. We just short circuit all the capacitances, okay, and we get the value of gain. So that is the gain that we get in the mid band range. And here at low frequency, gain falls due to CI, C0 and CS. Gain falls due to CI, C0 and CS. Now, very important thing, CI, C0 and CS, CI, C0 and CS are external to MOSFET, are external to the MOSFET, and CGS and CDS are internal to the MOSFET. Okay, so something that is external, we can change it very easily, but we cannot cut the MOSFET and remove this CGS and CGD, because they are basically the overlap capacitances in the MOSFET. So you have to bear with it. So mostly we can control the low frequency response easily. Okay, we can control the low frequency response easily. We can control the mid frequency response also easily by choosing the GM and the resistance values of our choice. But most of the times it will be difficult to control the high frequency response because it is related to the internal capacitances of the MOSFET. So please write this. So why there is a fall in the gain? Because you can see that uh, the gain falls in the low frequency band is due to the fact that even though Ci, C0 and Cs are large, their values are large, that is in microfarad, as the signal frequency reduces, their impedance increases. Okay, their signal frequency increases, their impedance increases, and they no longer behave as short circuits. So that is the reason why when the signal frequency is going to reduce, they are not going to behave like short circuits, they will offer some impedance, and because of that the currents will decrease, and the voltage drops will reduce, and overall we get a reduction in the value of the gain. On the other hand, if you see that gain falls off in the high frequency band because of CGS and CDS, which are though very small, they are in, so the value of this is in microfarads and the value of this is in picofarads. So though they are very small, their impedance at high frequency is going to decrease. Their impedance at high frequency is going to decrease. What is the impedance offered by the capacitor? Xc or Xcg is going to be what? 1 upon 2 pi Fc. So already I have my C value is fixed, but my F value is increasing. So if my F value is increasing, the impedance at high frequency is going to decrease, and thus these can no longer be considered as open circuits. So they are responsible for short circuits inside the device. So they are internal, so they cause like causing internal shorts, and they cause external open circuits. And that is why in both the cases, as frequency increases or if the frequency tries to become very small, the gain is going to fall off. So the frequency response study is a mechanism by which these two sets of capacitances which affect the amplifier gain in the low frequency and the high frequency band can be controlled. So you can see by the rise that FH is greater than FL, and that is why bandwidth is given by FH minus FL. So please copy this quickly. Once done, write done in the chat box. Okay, Soham, I'll just wait for others to complete it. Okay, so just I'll go down. Now with respect to MOSFETs, we need to understand what this thing actually means. Okay. So we just saw this circuit, right? So I'm just taking this circuit for our reference. It's nothing to do directly with anything. You can just delete all this. Okay. So here in this circuit, can you identify where is CI, C0 and C? So this is CI, this is C0 and this thing is CS. So they are external to the MOSFET. Do you agree with that? They are external to the MOSFET. Now, as far as the MOSFET low frequency model is concerned, so we have two models for the MOSFET, that is at high frequency and low frequency. So first I will draw low frequency model. So when we were doing the analysis, we were using the low frequency model. What was the low frequency model? We can show it this way. We may or may not show R naught. This was your R naught, and other notations are the same. So like this thing will be VGS plus minus, and this thing will be GM times of VGS. This is your gate, drain, and drain, and this thing is the source. So this is your low frequency model. So what is the change in the high frequency model? What is the change? So the change is like this. So from low frequency to high frequency, what we have to do is we will be adding this is GMVGS. Now which capacitances are there? Gate to source and gate CGD and CGS. Like this CGD and CGS. So CGD is between gate and drain, and CGS is between gate and source. Now these capacitance values can be calculated. Okay, so CGS is equal to LD into whatever is the width of the MOSFET into COX, and CGD is equal to whatever is the drain side overlap into the width of the MOSFET into COX. So we can calculate these values, and generally these values are given in the problem. CGD and CGS will be given to us. Now if you look at this CGD, okay, if you look at this CGD, so we can also have another inter-electrode capacitance. Just for the sake of showing, we can show that between drain and source, CGS or CDS, between drain and the source, but the value of this capacitance is very small, and that's the reason why the impedance offered by this capacitance is going to be very large, and most of the times it's okay if you don't show that. So if you just see CGS is here, so we can say it's on the input side. CDS will be here, somewhere here, so it's on the output side. But you can see CGD is between the input and the output. So if that is the case, then where should we consider CGD? Should we consider it on the input side or should we consider it on the output side? That is the question. So what I want you to do is, first you note down the low frequency model and the high frequency model, and then you try to show this CGD, CDS and all this, and that we should consider on input side or output side. That is the question. So if these values are in picofarads, these values are in, so let's say if this is like 1 picofarad, this is 1 picofarad, this will be like 0.1 picofarad, so it will be like 10 times smaller than this. So the impedance offered by CGD and CGS are significant. Okay, but this is already having very high impedance. So first they will short circuit, and if you continue to increase the frequency, then this CDS will short circuit. But CGS, and by the time CGS and CGD short circuit, the device would be already damaged and there would not be any use of even looking at CDS, because that will get short circuited after CGS and CGD short circuit. So that's why the focus is on CGS and CGD. Now, the way to split, if there is a connection like this, so this side is basically your input side and this side is basically going to be your output side. So this is fine. CGS we can say is on the input side, CDS we can say it's on the output side, but CGD is connected between the input and the output, and to split such kind of impedance between the input and the output, we go for something called as Miller's theorem. We will go for something called as what? Miller's theorem. Now what is Miller's theorem? Okay, so first we will see the theorem, because in the exam they'll ask you this for some marks. So let us say that we are having two nodes in a circuit. We are having two nodes like this, and between them there is a impedance. Let me say that the value is Z, and these nodes are X and Y, and from that node there can be any number of current branches, doesn't matter. So this is figure A. So we can convert this figure A to figure B. We can do this. We can split them into two resistances, and we can call them as Z1 and Z2. Okay, so I'll call it as figure B. Provided Z1 and Z2 have some values. Okay, so we can divide this Z1. So Z1 can be equal, Z2 can be equal to Z upon 1 minus 1 by AV, and Z2 can be equal to simply 1 upon 1 minus AV. So what the Miller's theorem says, that if you want to break that Z into input side and output side, the values of Z1 and Z2 should be 1 Z upon 1 minus AV, and it should be not 1, Z upon 1 minus AV, and Z upon 1 minus 1 by AV. Now, what is the value of this AV? Okay, so AV is the voltage at point X, Vx upon Vy. AV is equal to Vx upon Vy upon Vx, sorry, it has to be the other way now. That is the output side voltage upon the input side voltage, Vy upon Vx. Okay, now if you see that the current flowing through this was, the current flowing in this node was from X to Y. Let's say this is my current I. So the same thing should flow here also. So the equivalent of that, so if this current is I here, so what I can show is this I is got two parts. I flows as I1 here, and then this current flows like this again. So I, instead of flowing from X to Y directly, now it goes into ground, and ground again source the same amount of current, because you cannot violate any circuit rule or circuit theorem when you split something. So now if you see case 1, if you see the input side, the current is flowing from X to Y. Okay, the current is flowing from X to Y. So Here if you look at the input side, the value of current is going to be Vx upon Z1 or Vx minus 0 upon Z1, and actually the value of I is also equal to what? Vx minus Vy upon Z. So from figure A we get this second equation, from figure B we get this first one. So now we can say here that Vx minus Vy upon Z is equal to Vx upon Z1. So we can write therefore Z1 is equal to Z into Vx upon Vx minus Vy. So if we divide by Vx in numerator and denominator, we should get Z1 is equal to Z into 1 upon 1 minus Vy by Vx. So Vy, that is output voltage upon input voltage, is gain. So Z1 is equal to Z upon 1 minus AB. So this is what we got, the first one. And similarly, now if you consider the output side, what will you get? Now I is 0, current is flowing from ground to point Vy. So 0 minus Vy upon Z2, and here current I is equal to same Vx minus Vy upon. So again you can, like this was 1 and 2. When we equated 1 and 2 we got this. Let's say when we equate 3 and 4, we will get Vx minus Vy upon Z is equal to minus Vy upon Z2. So Z2 is equal to minus Vy upon Vx minus Vy into Z. So Z2 is equal to minus 1 upon Vx upon Vy minus 1 into Z, or this will be Z2 is equal to 1 upon 1 minus Vx by Vy into Z. So Vy by Vx is gain, Vx upon Vy will be 1 over AV. So Z2 is equal to 1 upon 1 minus 1 upon AV into Z. So we will use the same logic to split the capacitance or the impedance offered by CGD, which is connected between the gate and the drain. So in that sense, Miller's theorem is very, very important. Have you understood this? How those Z1 and Z2 came into existence? So let me give you an example. Let's say Vx is at 5 volts and Vy is at minus 5 volts. Okay. So can we split up the circuit like this? This is at 5 volts. This is 0. This is 0. And this is minus 5. So 5 volts is at a higher potential than 0. So current will flow from X to 0. And minus 5 volts is at a lower potential than 0. So current will flow from ground to this point. Are you convinced now that this will happen? Are you convinced or not convinced? You can unmute and answer. So once you copy this, write done in the chat box. Yes, any doubts here? No doubts, very good. So for an impedance it is this way. So for a capacitance what will it be? That is my question. So the first thing is you should understand it this way. See here. Now what is the impedance? The impedance offered by XCGD is 1 upon 2 pi f CGD. Now this 2 pi f, for the time being I'll write it as 1 upon S times of CGD. How you write in your networks theory, the impedance offered by a capacitor is 1 upon S times of C, and here in this case C is CGD. Now this XCGD we have to split into two sides, that is capacitance on the input side and the output side. So X Miller on the input side will be, what is the value of Z? 1 upon S times of CGD upon 1 minus AV upon 1 minus AV. So if I like expand this thing, what will I get? I will get here that this is 1 upon S times of CGD into 1 minus AV. So this is the X Miller on the input side. Now, if you look at this term, what it means is that the value of the capacitance, if you try to put CGD on the input side, it increases by, so this value is C Miller on the input side. So the value of CGD increases by 1 minus AV. Okay, it increases by 1 minus AV when you put it on the input side. And if you do the same thing for the output side, so XMI M0, I will say, that will be Z, that is 1 upon SCGD into 1 minus 1 by AV. So generally what happens is this is 1 upon SCGD into 1 minus 1 by AV. So this AV is generally large, it will be like 10, 50 or 60. So this you can approximate to, this is almost 0. So this is as good as 1 upon S times of CGD. So we can split that in this fashion. So this is C Miller on the output side. So what I mean to say is that if you try to break this capacitance, so if you try to connect this CGD, I'll remove it from here and I'll put one more capacitance here, and its value will be 1 minus AV times of CGD. And if I want to connect it on the output side, it will be simply CGD. So this is the way we will use Miller's theorem to split that CGD which is connected between input and output to only input side and only output side capacitances, so that we can apply our KVL and KCL very easily. So I think it's almost 3 o'clock. I'll just take your attendance. So we'll wind it up for today. Next class, we will quickly see the frequency response of CS MOSFET amplifiers, and then we'll directly move to large signal amplifiers.